Hello guys, and welcome to my new video, and today we're going to be looking at some of the latest changes that happened to healers on 10.2 PTR. Some of the changes happened to Mistweaver Monk, Resto Shaman, Holy Paladin. There's some of the things that are included here happened last week, so keep that in mind. But we're going to start off with Mistweaver Monk. We're going to talk about how these things are going to impact them, affect them, whether I like them or not. But first of all, some big things happening to Mistweaver Monk in terms of Cloud of Focus now stacks up 2 times, was 3 times. And no longer increases the healing of Vivify and Enveloping Mist before its first application. This is a nerf to Cloud of Focus, which is a big deal because Cloud of Focus is the way to play in raiding situations. Cloud of Focus Yulon build is something that's been very popular on live servers, something that's been used in 10.2 PTR when it comes to raiding. So they nerf Cloud of Focus, but they buff Vivify and Invigorating Mist healing by 12%. So they're obviously buffing this to try and offset the nerfs to Cloud of Focus. But you also have to remember there is going to be negative connotations towards Cloud of Focus mana reduction because it now only stacks up to 2 times, which a lot of people tend to forget about Cloud of Focus mana reduction component of it. So overall, even with these changes, we're still looking at Cloud of Focus as being one of the best builds when it comes to raiding situations in 10.2, unless something else changes. People are still looking to play Cloud of Focus, people are still looking at Yulon and things like that as being the main way to raid heal when it comes to Mistweaver Monk in 10.2, which can be either a good thing or a bad thing, because there's a lot of split opinions about Cloud of Focus being in terms of a fun gameplay or not. Let me know how you feel about Cloud of Focus in general. I generally like the fact that your Vivify Invigorating Mist healing is going to be increased by 12%, because guess what? If you're a Mistweaver Monk who does primarily Mythic Plus content, you basically just got free healing increase. If you're someone who raids, you got a nerf and then something to compensate for that nerf. But if you're in Mythic Plus, you're just getting better and better. So Mistweaver Monk Mythic Plus performance definitely something that I need to test out a bit further. Expel Harm's healing is now reduced by 40% in PvP. This is only PvP. Now the Forset bonus G Harmony now stores 20% of all healing. The one was 15. Honestly, they are going back and forth between the Forset bonus. It used to be 15, then 20, then 20. It's just, this is a buff, which is nice. Keep it going, but they're very, very uncertain about where they want the Forset bonus to sit. Overall, Mistweaver Monk tier set bonus I think is actually excellent. I really like the way that it plays and what it provides. I'm really happy about, like, if you're a Mistweaver Monk main, I think you're generally happy about the tier set bonus overall. And any buffs that are happening to it, I mean, it's just added plus. Phalanx Stomp initial heal and damage is increased by 100%. Another free buff to any Mistweaver who's running Mythic Plus content, because Phalanx Stomp is the way to play your Mistweaver Monk when it comes to Mythic Plus. Phalanx Stomp, Awakened Phalanx, all of those good things create this like spin to win environment in Mythic Plus where you can just do so much damage and healing at the same time. And getting free buffs to Phalanx Stomp and free buffs to Vivify and Invigorating Mist. I mean, just keep piling on the good things for Mistweaver Monk when it comes to that Mythic Plus content. Bounce Back now triggers after receiving 12% of your health in damage. Used to be 15 and lasts additional 2 seconds. This is an ongoing effort to increase the survivability of Mistweaver Monk. In the last couple of weeks, we saw bounce back buffs, we saw buffs to Calming Presence in terms of damage reduction, we saw reworks in terms of Expel Harm, and I think all of those changes are trying to offset the nerfs or changes that happen to Healing Elixir. I am more than happy that they're trying to look at the survivability of Mistweaver Monk, because it is a melee healer. It needs that added kind of bonus in terms of survivability. We saw the same exact things happening to Holy Paladin in the previous expansions and in the previous patches and things like that in terms of Sanctified Plates, but Sanctified Plates actually got nerfed 10.2 for Holy Paladin. So besides that, Unison now heals for 50% of Soothing Mist healing done. Used to be 75. This is obviously a nerf, especially this is a nerf in raid situations. You don't run Unison in Mythic Plus, and Live Cocoon can no longer be cancelled. So what do you think overall changes about Mistweaver? Cloud of Focus is still looking to be strong or usable in raid situations. Phalanx Stomp is still looking to be like the way to go in Mythic Plus situations. Pretty big, nice quality of life changes or buffs when it comes to especially Mythic Plus content. We'll see if Monk is going to climb to that top tier in Mythic Plus. I still feel they're missing some utility items. The fact that they haven't increased your melee range by a couple of yards still feels a little bit like, why not? Why not just increase the melee range by a little bit to make it so much more interesting to play when it comes to that Mythic Plus content and that Phalanx Stomp and things like that. But overall, I'm pretty happy about what's happening to Mistweaver. Let's go to the next healer. And now let's go to Holy Paladin in terms of the changes that happened to them. Reclamation now refunds up to 10% of Crusader Strikes or Holy Shock's mana cost. Used to be 12. Holy Shock now costs 2.8% base mana cost. Used to be 2.4. So Holy Shock costs more mana, Reclamation is not as good. Maybe we'll have to look at Barrier of Fate, but I generally believe a lot of these abilities, things like Barrier of Fate, actually adds to a button bloat, but let me know how you feel about that. In terms of the ongoing design shift that Blizzard is trying to do in terms of mana being a resource for healers, I honestly feel battling or focusing on Holy Paladin is probably the worst case situation here, because Holy Paladin spends mana in such a different way than other healers. It doesn't have these crazy expensive abilities that they can burn their mana and do a ton of healing when they feel like they have too much mana. And if you run out of mana as Holy Paladin, you're just basically like, I was just doing my base rotation. I wasn't really doing anything crazy. So it just feels really bad in terms of, I honestly feel like Blizzard over the expansions had this, they had a lot of issues in terms of balancing mana for Holy Paladin. It was either like you could run out of mana really easily and you feel really bad, or mana was not a resource at all and it would just never lose any mana. And I generally believe mana reductions or mana increases to Holy Paladin, the best way I can put this is kind of cringe. There needs to be a redesign to the class to make these mana increases justifiable. That's the way I see it, because right now it just doesn't feel good. But maybe Blizzard's intention is here for you to use Flash of Light during Infusion of Light procs, because the mana cost of Flash of Light is going to be severely reduced, and if that's true, then that takes away from that melee gameplay and, in my opinion, makes it less fun. Holy Reverberation healing decreased by 10%. So this is actually Holy Reverberation, your 2-set bonus has also received the changes where you got nerfs in terms of healing, but your tier set would actually scale with mastery, and now they're nerfing the healing by 10%, but also Holy Reverberation may stack up to 6 times, used to be 3 times. If you're not sure about what the tier set is, let's go to the PTR servers. So this is my Holy Paladin on 10.2 PTR, and you can see the 2-set bonus. When Glimmer of Light dissipates or is refreshed, it creates a Holy Reverberation on its target to heal an ally for a certain amount or damage an enemy for a certain amount over 8 seconds. Now this can stack up to 6 times. The amount, like, if you're looking at raid situations, how many times you're going to go above the previous cap of 3? It's going to be very, very rare. You're not really going to go above that in terms of raid situations. Like, the only few cases I can think of is to do with Daybreak and Rising Sunlight. Now, when it comes to Mythic Plus content, I can see how it could be interesting to play around, because if you use Daybreak, you're going to be getting, again, I need to have Glimmer of Light. I can use Daybreak, I'm going to be getting Rising Sunlight, and then I can use, and you can keep track of Holy Reverberations, I can use my Holy Shock, and I can definitely reach the stack of 6, depending on how I'm going to do it. So you can definitely do that, and it's interesting to see how much damage you can provide. Of course, you can use the Holy Shocks on friendly targets as well, depending on which situation you're doing. The nerf to healing is probably going to be viewed as a nerf in something like raid situations, but when it comes to Mythic Plus, it'll be interesting to see how the damage component is going to respond to this. So overall, I think you're going to either like it or kind of hate this change, depending on which content you're doing. I probably will do a bit more testing in terms of how much damage I can provide, because I do test my Holy Paladin a lot in Mythic Plus content, so it'll be interesting to see how this change is going to impact my gameplay. In raids, I can definitely see people complaining about this so far. Now the last change is going to be towards a Restoration Shaman, and at least they're getting some changes. So the 4-set bonus increases the healing of Riptide by 20%, was 15%. This actually was a change from last week, so this just made it into the notes. Again, I think the 4-set bonus, I think the tier set bonus should actually be reworked, but that's just my negative opinion about this. I'm just not a huge fan of it. If they're going to try to make tier set more viable, it definitely needs buffs, and I think that is a start. But you can still run into issues where you can have very different values for your tier set depending on which build you run, and I'm not sure if Blizzard is going to be able to solve that issue without reworking or changing some major things. And in terms of Chain Heal, now costs 5.6 of base mana, used to be 6%. So if you have not been following changes towards Resto Shaman when it comes to 10.2, there's been a lot of shifting in terms of the power of Chain Heal, because there's been single target buffs to a lot of your single target healing abilities. There's been mana nerfs in terms of Resurgence getting nerfed, and all of a sudden a lot of the builds for Resto Shaman when it comes to Mythic Plus and raid content were looking at rotations which did not involve Chain Heal at all. So over the last couple of weeks, Blizzard has been looking at that, so they buffed Chain Heal by 20%, and they also reduced the mana cost right now, because the Chain Heal, it might be buffed, it might be more powerful, but the mana cost feels pretty painful to play around. And I think this buff is definitely warranted. We'll have to see how the mana cost is going to feel for Chain Heal depending on which build you're running. I think this is going to be something that a lot of people are going to be happy about. I think the fact that Blizzard is paying attention towards this is interesting, because I think they're trying to make both builds possible. At the end of the day, I think the goal for Resto Shamans from Blizzard is to have both builds possible. I think they want you to, if you want to play Chain Heal build, you should be able to play Chain Heal build. If you don't want to play it, you can also choose that. I think that is the goal that Blizzard is trying to achieve, and I think it's quite evident over the last couple of weeks because they've been buffing Chain Heal. They're fully aware of the fact that Chain Heal had a lot of issues in terms of the mana cost, in terms of the power and things like that. So I am all about this change. I'm all about the fact that they're paying attention, that they're doing something about this, and there could be more changes happening later down the line to make it a bit more interesting as well. So I'm all about this. Let me know how you feel about this. If you're a Restoration Shaman, which build do you like? Do you like that Chain Heal build? Which is your favorite? And let me know why. So the overall changes this week, I'm honestly quite happy about certain healers. I'm really excited about Mistweaver when it comes to multiplayer content. I think they're doing all of these like small incremental changes every week that's making Mistweaver better and better and better every week. Like I said this in the Mistweaver section of the video, I still think Mistweaver could use some big utility items like Battle Res or Bloodlust, and they could use a melee range increase when it comes to that Phalanx Stomp build that you run in Mythic Plus to make it a perfect healer. But that might be asking a little bit too much. We'll have to see, because Blizzard has announced that this is going to be a release candidate. That doesn't mean there is not going to be more changes happening to healers and things like that. There is a very likely possibility there's going to be more changes happening during the first week of patch 10.2. So if you're kind of unhappy about where your class is heading, or you're like, oh, well, Blizzard is not really fixing the issues that I expect them to fix, there's still time for this to change. But I'm liking the Mistweaver changes. I'm liking the fact that they're paying attention to Resto Shaman. They're trying to make Chain Heal build a little bit more viable and less painful to use in terms of the mana consumption. These are all good changes. Are they going to be enough? Only time is going to tell, but that's why you have PTR. That's why you have testing. Do I expect more changes, or did I expect more changes to happen in sort of other healers and those of Discipline Priest? Probably did. Discipline Priest single target damage is absolutely insane right now. And a lot of people have been talking about the fact that Discipline Priest does so much damage. How are they going to battle that in terms of, are they going to nerf the damage? How are they going to accommodate the atonement healing and things like that? Or maybe they're just going to leave it. Maybe Discipline Priest is going to be by far like an insane DPS healer, especially when it comes to that single target in raid situations. Overall, I'm happy about certain healers getting changes. I'm not really happy about the fact that Holy Paladin is basically getting nerfs every single week. It's almost like a ritual right now, but it's going to be very, very funny to see, because my prediction is that even though Holy Paladin is receiving so many nerfs every single week, it's going to be funny to see that Holy Paladin is most likely still going to be considered as one of the better healers when it comes to patch 10.2, because that's how the rework, or how impactful the rework was at the start of 10.15. So overall, let me know how you feel about these changes. Let me know which healer you're maining in 10.2. Let me know which healer needs changes before the patch is released. Which healer needs the most changes? Groundbreaking changes need to happen to them, and Blizzard forgot. Let me know, and I'll see you in my next guide.